Bitcoin update on the daily chart to start us off with. Then we're going to add in some Gaussian channels, some volume, talk about that. We're going to look at upside targets and downside targets, both the bulls and the bears. That's what you should be doing. Always look at both narratives. Then we're going to zoom out to the weekly. We're going to do the same thing. So upside targets, downside targets, everything in between. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Follow us on Patreon if you want more content and more help navigating these markets. So let's go. Daily chart here, right? We've been flirting with some disaster down here, but is it really? Is it really disaster, or is it just moving subtly down in a downtrend, bleeding out before the big bounce? So the weekly chart, the tightest the Bollinger Bands have ever been. Likely a big move on the horizon. Could we possibly go down a little bit more? Of course, we're going to talk about those in a minute. But first, let's focus on if we move up, where do we need to flip for back to support? Well, I'm glad you asked, right? Let's look, we got to look at this whole zone, and you can notice that we've kind of broken down here, and we're kind of holding resistance right here, right? So this is our zone starting about 29.7, and I would like to see us really kind of paint above 30,000 again, right? You take out this high wick, that's kind of your pivot point. You want to hold that back as support, or just even break it, and we'd probably be talking to the bigger bulls here. So there's our resistance zone, right? Once we've kind of flushed under it, we held it for a little bit, made this zone, and then after we break it, right, been unable to really crack back in it with a closing candle. So 30K to 29.7 is your new resistance zone. If you see prices above that, you've got to give odds back to the bigger bulls here, right? So prepare for that for the upside. Now to the downside, could we go down again? Well, yeah, the odds of a reversal here were pretty high, right? If you ever see a candle like this, your odds of going higher are much greater than coming back down. But yeah, here we are, right? So nothing for certain, right? In crypto or anything in life. So now to the downside, where would we go? Well, obviously the logic says back to this point where we hit. What is this line? That's the 100-day EMA, around 28.5. So that is your first focus point. Right, so let's draw that on here, and you go back to this high wick, right, 28.5, and now you hit that low wick, 28.5. Also, the 100-day EMA, so 28.5 is first and foremost with a further drop. The lower Bollinger Bands holding a little bit higher than that, not that you can't break it, but, prices by definition on lower Bollinger Bands are low. At the high Bollinger Bands, prices are high, right? Just kind of gives you a channel to, give you a heads up where you are in the move. So let's say we break this, and then what? Then panic probably starts to set in for a lot of people, right? Especially new traders, new investors. They're looking at, that should be support. If we break that, panic could hit. So where could we hit between here and there? Well, the 200 days all the way down at 27K. Do we have anything before that? Well, yeah, of course. Just because you don't see it on one time frame, it could be on a different chart. 3-day, weekly, monthly, right? You got to check all of those. So if you don't see it on here, right, not very clear here, right? It looks like a big damn gap. But let's go look at the chart back over here, right? Do we have any other support? We had this high wick. What about these candles? What about this high candle here? Well, one touch point, not going to do a whole lot, but you always want to look back a little bit farther. Could we extend this back and see anything else? Well, yeah, look at this here, right? Now we have this big daily red candle closing right around 28K. This previous support broke, flip to resistance here, come back, resistance again with a big green closing candle. Big red, support, big green, resistance, right? So 28K, just above that. Let's keep this on here, and let's zoom out to the weekly. But first, let's check our volume. Do we have any volume here? Well, what is important to note here is that since our high in July, right, you see this trend line, right? If you want to add this to your chart, you can just go to your volume, right? This is just a moving average for this volume, right? And it could be helpful times time. So to do that, right, you click on your volume settings, your little cogwheel there, hit your style, go over to style, right? I think it'll default to that, but go over to style, and you just check that, right? Volume moving average, that's what that is. So that's how to do that. And you can see it's falling ever so slightly, right? The volume is falling. At the same time, the price is falling. What does that mean? That's actually a bullish indicator, right? If you have volume and price both falling, that is a bullish implication in the not so distant future. Now, could it take many more days or many more weeks, or yes, to play out, of course. But the volume is still falling as the same time the price is falling. So keep that in mind, right? That's a bullish sign. Now, how about the Gaussian channel? Does that help us out at all? Well, I'm glad you asked again, and hell yes, right? Look at this median line on the Gaussian, how much we're respecting this median line, holding support. We don't want to see that break with a close. Otherwise, the odds just go up for continued downside or consolidation, down at the next level, right? So consolidation here, drop, consolidation here, maybe another drop and consolidation yet again. Maybe we consolidate 28.5 next, right? Or 28, right? Here's our both lines that we've already painted. But you start to get a little bit more bearish there because you're in the lower part of the Gaussian channel. See the resistance back in here, early, late May, right? Resistance in the lower part of the Gaussian. You can see how they're all red, right? Because you're more bearish by definition there. As you start to get above in your upper tier of your Gaussian, right? You're over your halfway point. They turn, neon green because they're more bullish. Your price action is more bullish by definition. Gaussian channel support, previous resistance, break above it. Now support, median line, right? Yeah, pretty big stuff, right? So you don't have to make it overly complex here, right? This is pretty simple, support and resistance stuff. So now let's go to the weekly, right? TA analyst job, right? My job, or anybody you're watching on YouTube, is just to interpret data for you. It's not to lean you bullish or bearish or feed you a narrative of a bias. It's to interpret information and then you make the decision, right? So anybody that's always, showing you charts and then saying you should do this, right? That's wrong. No, I interpret the data for you, right? That's my job. That's a TA artist's only job, is to do that. So just side note on that one. Okay, weekly. These are the same damn lines that we've looked at, right? So the high wick on the weekly and the high close on the weekly. This candle also closed at just above 28K. Now, do we have anything around that, right? We looked at that daily chart as 27K, but that's really not a factor as much on the weekly. So we have many levels before that on the weekly, and the higher time frames have higher conviction rate and should be looked at as more of a weighted scale, right? A monthly support level is much different and much more weight than an hourly support scale. Hopefully that makes sense, right? So the weekly chart, right? We've wicked off this purple EMA 14, right? This thicker line. And then you have the median Bollinger Band, which is also the 20-week SMA. That's at 28.5, right? 28.5. We've talked about 28.5 many times. Tried to burn that in your head. Last time we came down here, we held it perfectly, right? 28.5. If we break that with on that daily chart, say we spook the market, which Bitcoin tends to like to do, but then fake out to the other side as well, which Bitcoin likes to do. It likes to kind of wreck both bulls and bears all the time. So 28.5 first. Next on the weekly chart, 28, right? On the daily, that's a pretty important level, 28. On the weekly, not as important, but like we did on the daily, what if you stretch this back over here? Then what? Well, now you have two weekly candles and our biggest candle of 2023. This is our massive monster candle, right? That closed just above 28K. Not only that, but what else do we have right around 28K? Just slightly below. We have the 100-week in the blue, the 100-week EMA, which is 27.9. And then just below that, we have the 21-week, which is in the yellow, right? 27,850 as of right now. So let's kind of zoom in here, right? So we have a massive, I would say, support zone between where we have already hit 28.5 to all the way down, not that much lower, right? To 27.8. I'll go 27.8. So 28.5 to 27.8. I hold high conviction with this holding daily or weekly closes, excuse me. So a closing candle lower than this is not the odds based on this chart, not what I'm saying, not what in my opinion is. It's the chart, right? Based on this chart, 28K circa, right? Circa thereabouts, circa word of the day, 27,850, right? That's pretty close to 28, right? So weekly chart, that is where I'd be looking for major support. That's a buy the dip scenario right there, right? Not financial advice, but I have multiple orders in. I have another order at 28.5 and another order in around 27.9. So just FYI, that's what I'm doing. You can do what you want. The Bollinger Bands, the tightest in Bitcoin's entire history, 14 years, roughly 14-year history for Bitcoin. Bollinger Bands have never been this tight. That means the lack of volatility leads to explosive volatility. Go look back at any time in history when Bollinger Bands are tight and you have a bigger move on the horizon. So to improve our odds to the upside, look back here, right? We were unable to flip and hold in the upper tier of this Bollinger Band, right? So you can see that thin line. Again, that thin line. That's where your odds go. For where you're going, and the next big move is what part of the channel are you in? Are you in the lower part, which we were here, and big move down, right? Look how narrow the Bollinger Bands got, right? Big move down because we were holding resistance on that median Bollinger Band, the 20-week SMA. How about now? Well, I've shown you the data, right? Where are we? By definition, we're more bullish than bearish because we're in the upper tier of the Bollinger Bands, holding support so far. Right? This can change. You got to be Bruce Lee and be water, right? Be able to adapt on a dime. But for as of now, right, here is your bullish scenario, right? The bulls should win. If we start to continue up here, right, the bigger move should favor the upside. Not only that, we're in an uptrend all of 2023. By definition, you're more bullish. Not only that, by definition, you're more bullish because you're above all your moving averages, right? We're creeping below the EMA8 at as of now, but we still have 3.5 days until this weekly candle closes. I would like to see where we are at that point. If we're above the 20-week SMA, which is 28.5, we're still favoring bulls. Not only that, let's put it on closing prices. What are we looking like here? Well, are you seeing anything yet? Right? If you've looked at charts any length of time, what does that look like to you, right? Does that look, pretty similar to a bull flag? Well, it should, because that's what the hell it is. Now, this starts to get invalidated if we start to come down below half of the flagpole, which is roughly 28.4, 28.3. So if you see prices closing down under here, this is now a no-go bull flag, and now we're just in kind of a falling channel, right? So that patterns can morph. That is possible. But as of now, you're leaning major bullish by definition, not because what I'm saying or anybody else. The charts are saying you're leaning bullish, right? If you're not, you're going the wrong way on a highway, right? You can do it, but probably gonna F it up, right? You go down 95 highway going 80 the wrong way, right? You don't want to fight the trend. The trend is up. The moving averages are up, right? Your prices are up. You're in a bullish pattern up, right? You got to be favoring the bulls here until proven otherwise. We start to get proven otherwise if we close below, I would say 28.5, 28.4 area. So the weekly close will be big. Otherwise, wicks can do anything. Tomorrow, today, we could come down here, but you're not panicking because now you have more information, right? So if you see prices below 27.8, then we can start to get on edge a little bit, right? Then maybe we need to do a couple shots of Patron or something to ease our mind. But until then, smooth sailing, right? You got to be leaning bullish. All right. Hopefully that helps someone out there somewhere, somehow. All right. Quote and card of the day. Let's get to it. If we open a quarrel between past and present, we shall find that we have lost the future, by Winston Churchill. Great quote. Card of the day. Bugatti Veyron in ultra custom exposed wide weave carbon fiber, right? This is carbon. This is a major option, couple $100,000 option on top of your couple $1 million price tag for the car, right? And then he's got a custom, he's got custom everything on this, multi-million-dollar car, and then probably about $300,000-$400,000 in options at least. Here's the rear. Damn. Exposed wide weave carbon is extremely expensive because it has to be perfect. So that is I would guess probably $500,000 in options here, maybe more. All carbon, right? This doesn't come like this. This person shelled out some cash. All right, so I'll leave you with that. Hopefully you found it helpful. Bugatti Veyron. I'll see you on the next video. All right.